Hi guys, welcome to this week's video. So this week I'm going to teach you how to prune your vines. I've got a vine here which is on the front of our gîte, and I'm going to show you how to prune it correctly. So there are two different types of methods when pruning your vines. The first one is spur pruning. Now spur pruning is when you cut right up to the main trunk or old cane that you've got there previously, and the second one is cane pruning. And cane pruning is where you leave one cane and then it grows from that one cane. So here on this example I've got a little bit of both. So we've got the main trunk here of the vine, and off the vine we've got a couple of what were original canes that are now become actual part of the trunk. So we're cutting back straight to the trunk. On this vine here, I want to keep a kind of a U shape on the actual vine, and then so I'm going to be actually doing what is known as the spur pruning. So I'm going to cut everything right back to the main trunk, and I'm not going to leave any canes, which is bits that are grown from last year. The only one I'm going to leave is this one in the middle, and the reason why I'm leaving this one in the middle is because I want to have a U shape, but I also want to have one going up in the middle. So that's my plan, and now I'm going to get pruning. So as you can see, this is the main part of the vine, and what I'm looking to do is actually chop right back to the main part of the vine, and this will then encourage growth at the actual point of where I'm cutting. And you can see here where the vine has had many previous cuts in many previous years, which is why it's looking thick and gnarly, and I'm just pruning right back to the actual vine, actual root itself, cutting right back to the actual vine. That's spur pruning, whereas cane pruning is where you actually leave a cane. So here you can see on this trunk here, this is a cane. This was last year's growth, and I'm going to leave that cane, and I'm just going to prune either side of it so that all of the new growth comes off the actual spur. So you can see where the grapes were, and you can leave several, depending on how you want to do it, you can leave, these are nodes, as you can see where the future growth is going to happen, and depending on how long you want it, you can either have several nodes, or you could actually cut it at this point and only leave 5 or 6 nodes there. So I'm pruning this today, and it's actually currently winter at the moment, so it's just gone February. So February or January, February is perfect time to prune your vines. Again, it's because the winter, the frost will make sure there's no diseases and everything else. Make sure you've got a sharp pair of secateurs. So there we are, I've now completely pruned my vine, or apart from that one there, and as you can see it's completely bare. I've gone right back to the main trunk. At each of these nodes, what will happen is new shoots will come out, and it will be on these new shoots, this new growth, it will be them that will grow the grapes this year. So the idea of pruning, if you want to have grapes, the idea of pruning is that it encourages grapes. You can only get grapes on kind of this year's growth. I've also got another vine on our barn, which I'm going to show you, but I've also got some vines in our field next to our gîte that we also use for grapes. So I'm going to show you how I've pruned them so it's slightly differently. As you can see here, I've pruned this to give me a specific shape that will then grow. So here you can see the grapevine, and it's a bit messy because it hasn't been pruned properly last year. But what we want to try and do is, I'm going to spur prune, so I'm going to prune all of these little bits off, and then what I'm going to try and do, because these are no good, and then what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and keep this cane here and try and grow the grapes or the new grapes off this one cane. So for example, I'm going to probably keep this one, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll do 7 nodes. So I've got 7 nodes, and then off these, at each of these nodes, what will happen is there'll be new canes that will grow, and hopefully grapes that will grow off them. And the idea is, as I'll keep that pruned, and then what I'll probably do is down here there's another node, and that will probably grow another cane. And when they're in the actual wine growing places, when they're actually pruning their canes, they actually leave one cane, which is kind of a little bit what they've done here, but they'll leave one cane and for this year's growth, and then they'll leave another cane that will only have 1 or 2 nodes, and then off that 1 or 2 nodes will grow 2 canes, and then the next year they'll cut this one off and they'll use one of the other canes that grew off the other node, and then vice versa, so they'll go kind of one to another, one to another. But for what I do here, typically I just try and go back and create a couple of canes that I'll use for growing grapes. So here's my finished vine, and what I've done is on this stem here, I've cut everything off, but I've kept 1 cane on this one. On this one, I've kept 1 more cane here, and the reason why I've kept a cane here is because I want to try and have 3 really. I'm not too worried about producing too many grapes because I'll prune it a bit later in the spring. For wine, you don't want to have too many grapes. What you want to do is have a few bunches, and then obviously you're going to have really good quality wine. Whereas if you let your vine have too many bunches, then what will happen is it will dilute the taste, and then obviously the wine won't be as good. So I kind of want a little bit in the mix for these ones, because I'm probably going to eat them, so I kind of want quite a few but not too many. So I'm going to try and have 3 canes here. So I've got kind of 1 here, 1 in the middle, and then I've got 1 that's running along here, and I've tied to the back here. Oops, as you can see, so I've tied it back here. So as you can see behind me, there's a little bird's nest. Now, I only discovered there was a bird's nest once all of the leaves had gone after the summer, so there's no birds in it at the moment, but I'm going to leave it there. You never know, they might nest there again this summer. So here's the vine that is on the side of our barn, and what I've tried to do is trail it around the barn and along the barn. So the way to do this is, if you've got 1 long cane after a good summer's growing, you leave that cane and then cut back to the spurs, so cut everything back to that 1 cane, and then you can trail that cane to wherever you want to go, and then keep cutting back to that 1 cane, and it will start growing thicker and thicker and thicker, but it will still keep growing from that 1 cane, and that way you can kind of trail or train your vine to kind of grow wherever you want it and to get to whatever size you want it. So that's how to prune your vines. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Don't forget to subscribe and be notified of any future videos, and hopefully that's helped you prune your vines. And if you don't have a vine, get one, because the grapes are gorgeous, they look amazing, and they're really, really easy to manage and to prune, as you've seen today. Anyway, speak to you soon. Cheers guys, see you soon, bye.